Okay, imagine this. A classroom. But the 6-year-olds, they're not just doing ABCs. They're learning the code, the actual tech that's, shaping their whole future.
Sounds like sci-fi, but it's really happening right now.
Exactly. And welcome everyone to the Deep Dive, with a place that cuts through all that noise to give you the key stuff, the forces really changing our world.
Yeah, if you're listening, you probably want to get the big picture without drowning in articles.
That's the goal. And today we are diving deep into something pretty huge. AI, artificial intelligence, getting plugged into education.
And specifically, we're looking at two giants, China and the US, and how they're taking, well, really different paths here.
Totally different. We've got some fascinating stuff to unpack today. There are news reports about China saying AI is mandatory, even for 6-year-olds.
Mandatory, yeah. And we've got a report comparing the US and China's strategies directly. Plus, China's big AI plan from way back in 2017.
Right, that 2017 plan is quite something. And also a piece looking at generative AI like chatbots and what that means for really young kids.
So our mission today is to pull all this together for you, give you a clear view of what's happening, why the approaches are so different, and honestly, some surprising things about what this means for the future.
It's not just the what, it's the why it matters.
Exactly, why it matters for the next generation.
Okay, so China. This sounds like a really bold move. Mandatory AI for a 6-year-old. What does that even look like?
Well, the scale and the speed are pretty remarkable. September 1st, 2025. That's the date.
This year.
AI education becomes required for everyone, including kids just starting primary school.
Wow.
And it's not just theory. They'll be like using chatbots, learning basic AI ideas, and even starting to talk about AI ethics.
Ethics for first graders. That's intense. How are they actually putting this into schools? Is it a separate class?
It can be. The Beijing Education Commission, they set a baseline. At least 8 hours of AI stuff per year, primary and secondary.
8 hours minimum.
Right. And it can be woven into other subjects, science, IT, or it could be its own standalone thing. The key is it's required. No getting around it.
So why? What's the big push behind this? It sounds like a massive effort.
Strategically, it looks like it's about cementing their place as a tech leader, maybe even a tech leader globally.
Right, building that future workforce early.
Precisely.
Yeah.
They see nurturing AI talent right from the start as, well, essential. You see it in their top universities too, like Zhejiang University, churning out AI leaders. This mandatory schooling is like laying the foundation.
So it connects to a bigger picture, a national strategy.
Absolutely. This isn't just some random education policy. It's a core piece of their new generation artificial intelligence development plan. Remember that one from 2017?
How vaguely, yeah. Refresh my memory.
That was their big declaration.
Yeah.
They aim to be the world's main AI innovation center by 2030.
The main center.
Yeah. And part of that plan was specifically achieving universal AI education. So the plan called for breakthroughs in AI theory, building these big innovation platforms, and really pushing new AI industries. Making AI mandatory in schools fits right into that.
It's interesting how this stuff ripples out. We saw that Reddit reaction, didn't we? Someone comparing this focus in China to Nepal, saying kids there were just on social media.
Yeah, that sparked quite a debate. That really shows how different places are thinking about the future, about education.
Right, people were comparing resources, priorities.
And debating if it even makes sense to teach AI this young. Is it valuable? Is it practical? It just shows, the world is watching these shifts.
Okay, so that's China. Top-down, mandatory, ambitious timeline. Now the US, how are they tackling this?
Well, it's a very different flavor. There's this executive order from April 2025 advancing artificial intelligence education for American youth.
Okay.
And the whole approach is, let's say, policy-driven, collaborative, but not mandatory like China's. It respects that the U.S. education system is really decentralized. Local control is a big deal.
So Washington isn't telling every school district, you must teach AI now.
Nope. Instead, they set up a White House AI education task force. Think of it as a coordinator.
Getting different agencies on the same page.
Exactly. Department of Education, National Science Foundation, all of them trying to work together. And they launched a presidential AI education challenge.
Competitions to get kids interested.
Yeah, promote hands-on learning, spark that interest. Another big piece is public-private partnerships.
Companies and schools working together.
Right, to develop age-appropriate AI lessons, curricula, but it's all voluntary. Schools can choose to use it or not.
Okay. And what about helping schools actually use AI, like for tutoring?
Yeah, the Department of Education is supposed to guide schools on using existing federal money for that kind of thing. Using AI to personalize learning, maybe help with admin tasks.
And teachers, they need training for this.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So the strategy prioritizes AI projects in teacher training grants, helping teachers use the tools and teach the concepts.
Makes sense.
And finally, it connects to jobs. They want to link K-12 AI learning to higher ed and the workforce, expanding things like AI apprenticeships.
So it's more about creating the right conditions, providing resources, rather than a mandate. What's the motivation? Is it also about global competition?
Oh, absolutely. Similar end goal to China, in a way. Prepare American kids to use AI, create AI, keep the U.S. at the forefront of tech.
Especially with China moving so fast.
Exactly. The executive order pretty much says that. It's a response to global competition, and China's a big part of that equation.
Okay, so two really distinct approaches. Let's break down those core differences. Strategy, philosophy.
Well, the biggest one is that governance model, right?
Yeah.
China, central control, mandatory. U.S. decentralized, voluntary with federal guidance.
That difference flows through everything else, I guess.
It really does. Curriculum, for example. China's pushing it across the board, starting really young. In the U.S., you're more likely to see elective courses or maybe AI topics tucked into existing STEM classes.
And teacher training follows that pattern too.
Yep. China can just mandate training. The U.S. uses incentives, grant priorities, trying to encourage teachers rather than force them.
What about the speed? How quickly will this stuff actually get into classrooms?
That's another key difference. China's aiming for fast, nationwide coverage. Very ambitious timeline.
Whereas the U.S.
It'll likely be slower, more uneven. Depends on the state, the district, even the individual school. Plus, you have different cultural vibes around tech in schools.
How so?
Generally speaking, in China, there seems to be a lot of public enthusiasm for tech in education. In the U.S., it's more mixed. You hear more concerns about screen time, data privacy, bias, and algorithms.
Right, those debates are always simmering. And that connects to the piece we saw about generative AI for little kids, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. That discussion highlights the potential, AI helping teachers plan lessons, create personalized activities, even handle parent communications.
Making things easier for teachers, potentially.
And maybe supporting families too, like helping with meal plans or answering questions via chatbot and creating custom stories or learning games for kids. Lots of potential upside.
But there's always a but.
Always. The analysis also flags the big risks. Safety online, algorithmic bias creeping in, and just the huge need for careful, responsible experimentation. We need strong ethical rules.
And those risks apply whether it's the U.S. approach or China's.
Exactly. Doesn't matter if it's mandatory or voluntary. Those ethical questions are front and center.
So, looking down the road, long term, what could these different strategies mean for each country?
Well, it's huge for developing AI talent and staying competitive globally. China's path could, potentially create a massive AI literate population very quickly, a big pipeline for AI experts.
And the U.S. slower rollout might mean.
Maybe slower widespread adoption, yeah.
Yeah.
But the U.S. focus on local control and partnerships, that might lead to more diverse types of innovation, different experiments happening in different places.
Could we see a shift in, who's leading in AI innovation?
It's definitely possible. The balance of power could recalibrate over time based on how well each strategy works.
Interesting. But despite all these differences, are there things they actually agree on? Any shared goals?
Yeah, and this is important. Both countries seem to really emphasize critical thinking and problem-solving skills within their AI education plans.
So it's not just about coding or using the tools.
Right. It seems there's a shared understanding that kids need to think critically about AI, how it works, its impacts, and how to use it to solve actual problems.
That's encouraging.
And you also see those underlying values reflected. The U.S. often talks about innovation, individual opportunity. China often frames it more around collective progress, national strength.
And how might this change the workforce in, say, 10 or 20 years?
Well, the aim for both is a much more AI literate workforce. People who aren't just prepared for AI-related jobs, but who can also participate more knowledgeably in conversations about AI policy ethics.
A more informed public, potentially.
That seems to be part of the goal.
Of course, pulling this off isn't easy for either country. What are the big hurdles they face?
For the U.S., a major one is coordination. Getting all those federal, state, and local players rowing in the same direction, plus ensuring funding is consistent. And crucially, making sure there isn't a huge gap in quality between rich and poor districts. Equity is a big challenge.
Yeah, that's always a concern with decentralized systems. And for China.
The sheer scale is a challenge. How do you ensure quality control across millions of students and teachers? How do you avoid just adding more pressure, overloading the curriculum?
Making sure it's real learning, not just teaching to a test.
Exactly. Fostering genuine understanding and creativity, not just rote learning about AI. That's a tricky balance anywhere.
Okay, let's try and wrap this up. We've covered a lot of ground. What's the main takeaway from this deep dive on AI education in the US and China?
I think the core message is that we're seeing this massive global shift towards integrating AI into how we teach kids. But the two biggest players, the US and China, are taking really different routes to get there.
Parallel journeys, different roadmaps.
You got it. China's going full speed ahead, top-down mandate, aiming for rapid, universal AI literacy to boost national power.
While the US is more decentralized, collaborative, using policy nudges and partnerships, focusing on innovation and local control.
Right. But both strategies show just how critical everyone thinks this is.
Yeah.
Preparing the next generation for a world completely intertwined with AI. Hopefully you listening now have a much clearer picture of these approaches and, well, just how high the stakes really are.
Definitely. Which leads to maybe a final thought for everyone listening. As AI gets deeper and deeper into learning, into childhood itself, what are those fundamental things about being a kid, about education, that we absolutely have to protect no matter what tech we use?
That's the big question, isn't it?
It really is. Something to chew on. Thanks for diving deep with us today. If this got you thinking and you want more insights on the big shifts happening, definitely subscribe to the Volture podcast channel.
We'll be back soon with another deep dive.